Acacia's had the privilege of hosting a really special guest today, Mr. Mark Cutifani. Though anyone within the mining industry would know that name, it's absolute royalty, held executive roles throughout the industry, big key roles with Anglo Gold Ashanti, CEO, MD for Anglo American. He now sits on the board of Vale. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg in terms of Mark's accomplishments. We were lucky enough to get him here in Western Australia, and we had a really exciting discussion last night. And he took some time out today to talk about his insights, the skill capability in the industry, but most important, the PR issue that the industry is facing. So Mark, it is so wonderful to have you here in Western Australia. You've obviously had such an immense global career, but you had an amazing industry dinner last night. At one point you spoke about how you introduced yourself to people, and they would say to you, what industry do you work in, Mark? What do you do? Can you talk to me more about that?
Yeah, so I got rather tired when I introduced myself as someone from the mining industry, that they'd sort of look at you, a little bit strange, and given a lot of the people I met through government and NGO activities and environmental activities. So if you said you were from the mining industry, it really was as though you swore at them.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd try a different tactic, and in particular I was with an NGO on slavery actually. And someone said, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "Well, I work in an industry that has the most positive net environmental impact on the face of the planet." And I said, "Would you like to guess what that industry might be?" And needless to say, after using that line quite a few times, no one's ever guessed that I work for the mining industry. But what it has done, it's triggered a conversation about that net positive environmental footprint.
Yeah.
And why do you say that, and how do you make that claim? Which got us into a conversation about mining's contribution to society. And in the end, to a person, they've said, "I never thought of it like that. You've made me think a little bit differently. I'm not sure of my answer, but you've made me think differently." And I think that's something that we should all do, is talk about our industry and try and help people understand what contribution we do make to society.
So that's really great. But what does that mean in practical terms?
So the points I've used when asked the question, or when people have followed up, and most people are interested given the contentious line that I use, or as far as they're concerned, it sounds contentious at the first point. And I said, firstly, if you look around and you think about where matter comes from, and they said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well, everything. Literally everything around us, even the clothes you wear, the shoes you're wearing, jewellery you may have, the phone."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, yeah, but what's your point?" And I said, "Well, where do you think everything comes from?" And after a few minutes, we get to the earth is the source of everything. And in one form or another, it's mined. So we don't have anything that supports our life without mining. And quite interesting, First Nations people actually do understand that point, as the ancient Greeks did 2,500 years ago, when they talked about the nature of things being air, water, fire meaning energy, and earth being minerals. And I said the second point I make is that if you look at, and I use some simple examples, the agricultural sector, so feeding 8 billion people on the planet. 5,000 years ago, I think it was about 80,000 people. We're now at 8 billion. We use 40% of the Earth's surface to feed people through crops and grazing of animals. Now, grazing of animals is not very efficient, but in terms of crops, absolutely critical. Without fertilisers and mechanised agricultural processes that require minerals and all sorts of other things, we would require twice the land to feed 8 billion people. Without fertilisers, or with fertilisers, we doubled agricultural productivity. So that's one point. I said, secondly, if you look at urban environments, we take up 15% of the Earth's surface in cities and infrastructure. And a lot of people say, "Oh, cities aren't good." But if you think about urban sprawl, and we couldn't build up, and if you've been to Africa and look at the devastation of great tracts of land because they can't concentrate their activities, then 15% of the Earth's surface would require 25 to 30% of the Earth's surface. So just in those two examples, mining industry helps concentrate our human footprints, our impact on the Earth's surface by 30%. We take up 0.3% of the Earth's surface for mining activities. And I'm not saying there's not an impact from what we do, and we have to do better, but 0.3 saving 30% of the planet. There is no biodiversity without the mining industry. And when I look at the net contribution, there is no more significant net positive contributor to biodiversity and the future environmental sustainability of the planet. We don't tell that story, we don't know how to tell that story, and we need to unpack that in a way that's more user-friendly.
Do you think that a lot of the industry leaders know how to articulate that at this point in time? Like, do you feel like the message is clear enough?
So, no, but I wouldn't be too critical in that I'm not sure many industry leaders in a whole range of other industries are terribly good at articulating what contributions their industries make. And in our case, because I think so many people feel a bit under siege, they tend to keep their head down. Whereas I think we've got to do the opposite and stand up, stop being apologetic and explain why we are so important to society. And I don't think we should be ashamed of that. And I certainly don't think we should be apologetic. But at the same time, I think we have to be able to tell our story in a way that relates to people, and we don't do that well.
From an Acacia point of view, and when you're looking at, people and talent globally, one of the key themes and things that really stuck with me was talking about the capability of the industry in terms of talent coming in, and also the PR issue the industry faces when it comes to mining. Can you please expand on that for me?
I think one of the key points we talked about was the complexity of mining, and I was asked a question about mining and why, given we've been mining for 5,000 years, we still haven't got our act together in terms of getting the basics right. Because I talked about many operations not having the basics in place. And the comment I made to the person who made the observation, who came from the automobile industry, I said, we've been doing our work for 5,000 years, and we started off scratching around the ground about 10 metres deep. And now, in some places, we're at 4,000 metres deep. We're challenging and working with nature unlike we've ever done before. And the challenges that we face are unlike what we've ever had before. And on the flip side of that, attracting young people into this industry, we require the best talent we have on a global basis because of these challenges, and we're finding it very difficult to attract the right people with the right skills. They're more attracted to finance, technical. I've got 2 electrical engineers, both developing software solutions for a whole range of things. And so it's very difficult to attract the right people, and I don't think we're telling our story. I don't think we're explaining the technical challenges, the opportunities, the nature of the industry. And I think it starts with a conversation around how important our industry is to society and why, in the end, young people taking on those challenges can make such a positive difference to the world. And I think that was a key part of the whole theme of the conversation.
This is what I heard at dinner last night. The biggest sentence that really stuck with me is that mining makes life possible. And that was really built on your practical examples there. And I think you being in Western Australia and being able to put this message out to such a mining-centric community will only do great things. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Abbi, and thanks for the opportunity.